This was me, about 3 years ago, and this is me now. Okay, well, minus the filters. Now, the key difference between the two men photographed is acting prowess. The man in blue jeans is a few hours away from meeting with friends and is terrified to his core that they will question his sexuality because of his outfit, while the man in the Death Note shirt is over the moon about purchasing his first skirt, only fear being someone noticing the Hot Topic tag still attached because he was too elated and forgot to rip it off in his excitement. Both boys are putting on a show, but one is an active participant in the script writing, while the other is simultaneously acting, viewing, and being tormented by the storyline at the same time. A storyline that goes back to childhood. June 23rd, 2009. This was the day I finally upgraded from an original Xbox and PS2 to the, at the time, 3-year-old PlayStation 3. After setting up the console to define my childhood, I got a taste of my first ever gaming online experience in the form of PlayStation Home, a social networking app where you could meet new people, play games, and party in. As a practical joke, one adult who was in the room while I was making my character forced me to pick a female avatar. I was devastated. Tears emerging from my 7-year-old eyes as I was humiliated for my first time ever online. But what was the big deal? One of your peers forced you to be a girl? Isn't that something you like? No. Femininity and anything associated with it was mocked by my peers. Women are beneath us because we are men. The LGBTQ don't deserve basic human rights. If we had the legal authority, we'd kill them all. This rhetoric was instilled into me before knowing my times tables, and I embraced the sentiment. Women are nothing more than sex objects. Gays are the most deplorable people on the planet. This was the thinking of my 7-year-old self, harboring hatred for my fellow men for superfluous reasons. Hatred for groups of people that I unknowingly was a part of. I developed a lot of crushes at the time. There was just one problem. They were all white men. No, I'm just playing. Not all of them were men. I had lots of crushes on women, but occasionally a guy would pique my interest, and it disgusted me every single time. I would try my hardest to ignore these feelings as best I could. At the time, I was playing video games that allow me to go on murder sprees and mow down people without any remorse. But the prospect of liking another man was morally reprehensible to me. So I shut it down and put on my best heterosexual mask to please my peers. But just as fast as I put one mask up, another face started to emerge. Years had gone by, and the PlayStation Home event was almost but a forgotten memory. I now started playing as women in video games, but by my own choice, while still playing the role of straight man. I would often diminish any ridicule by simply calling into question the sexuality of any interrogator. Why the hell do you want to stare at the back of a man's ass for hundreds of hours instead of a woman? The truth is, I continued to play as women for reasons other than sexual gratification. With every new character, I would consider her to be an extension of myself. The self I couldn't show. I had all of this repressed creativity that could only be showcased virtually. I was jealous of my own creations. The only thing holding me back was I was still playing my role, mask held tightly against my skin. By this time, I had already accepted that I wasn't straight, but I couldn't trust others with this information. One of these people being my mother, the most open-minded person on the planet. I couldn't even tell you the last time she raised her voice or yelled at me, but even with knowing this, she was still a person I feared. I had played my role so well that I put up a protective shell around me. From everyone. Even those who would never hurt me. I was surrounded by so many, but was always alone. Mom has always been an insightful person. In my radical youth, where I hated everyone who wasn't a straight man like I was. Like who I thought I was. My mother told me that a certain group of people just wanted to be respected, like any other human being, not met with disgusted faces or harmed for being different. Sure, there are some troublesome people within the group, but you put together a group and not have a loud minority that gets more publicity and muddles the original peaceful message. This message could be applied to pretty much any group of humans living within this world full of hate. However, the people she was referring to were feminist. At this point, I'm maybe 14, and I'd gained so much animosity towards women and queer people over the years that simply hearing them speak repulsed me. I've never said this out loud before, but I was on the verge of becoming an incel in my early teens. I don't remember what changed this trajectory, but that talk with my mother really smacked some reality back into my brain. But even with this paradigm shift years prior, and starting to respect others and, in turn, myself, I was still among those same elders who tormented me from a young age. But instead of blending in, I now stood out as the boogeyman they all spoke so ill of for over 2 decades. The hate I once partook in as a child now had its eyes locked on me. I simply couldn't handle it. Taking my own life felt more alluring than living another day being seen as a criminal by 70% of countries simply for existing. I was spiraling. Another talk with my mother brought me back to sanity. After this talk, she took me shopping for clothes. This being the first time in my 20 years of living did I ever feel like myself. No mask, just Ace. All my years of designing characters finally saw a real-life adaptation. I've never felt more like myself than I do today. If my 7-year-old self could see me now, he'd probably hurl a bunch of insults at himself. And honestly, I'd give him the biggest hug that I can muster. Nothing can ever reverse the pain I went through and inflicted onto others. And I don't ask for forgiveness. Don't even believe I deserve it. My only regret is taking so long to finally understand the wrongs of my past and finally start to live. On that summer day, my peers definitely didn't imagine that prank on a little child would be the outline of his identity. Irony has a real sadistic way of showing itself. What a bitch.